Hare Krishna. The Jagannath Baldeswara Mai ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Gurudev ki jai. Tagore from Hari Go. Om Gyantvarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhu's Matajis, welcome all of you and thank you very much for joining. And we'll be discussing from Bhagavad Gita first chapter, the two verses 37 and 38. 37 and 38. Yadyapyetena pashyanti lobopahata chetasaha kulakshaya kritam dosham Mitradrohe patakam katam nageyam asmabhihi papat asman nivartitum kulakshaya kritam dosham prapashyadbhir Janārdana. Translation: O Janārdana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying family, engage in these acts of sin? Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. See, Arjuna, he had 5 arguments. First argument was compassion. So it was from 128 to 30. The second argument was loss of enjoyment from 131 to 35. His third argument, which we'll be discussing now, is fear of sinful reactions. So as we saw 36 yesterday and 37 and 38. And the fourth argument is destruction of family traditions, which will be in 37 to 43. And his fifth argument, indecision, which will be in the second chapter, 6th verse. See, in the purports of 32 to 35, Prabhupada says, everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives. But Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after we. So this is a typical calculation of material life, correct? Everybody wants to show off, no? That's what Prabhupada very nicely says. So the transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a father. Arjuna did not want to kill relatives. And if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, Arjuna did not know that Krishna had already killed them before they are coming out to the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. So as a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers. But it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. So the devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. So the Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. And yesterday we saw, Prabhuji had discussed that according to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. So such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. So now Arjuna argues that fighting will incur sinful reactions because of the unique position of the aggressors as seniors and relatives like Dronacharya, Bhishma, and also the Kurus. They are all relatives, right? Cousins. See, Arjuna's thorough consideration of evil consequences reveals his saintliness. First one is obligation. See, in the purport also Prabhupada says, to not refuse when challenged to battle or gamble is binding when the effect is good, not otherwise. So therefore, Arjuna considered that he is not obliged to fight. This is what, Arjuna is giving a lot of logical arguments, right? It was very perfect. So in this verse, which we are discussing today, so we can see the Kauravas, Duryodhana's party, they were not considering all these pious or impious, sinful or vicious activities. No, Why? Because Lobha Upahata Chetasaha. They have lost their sense on account of greediness for acquiring the empire. When one becomes lusty or overpowered by greediness, then he loses all intelligence. All living entities are by constitution eternal servant. And that is their healthy position. So long they remain servant of the Supreme, that is healthy. See, part and parcel of the body, this finger, no, it's a part and parcel of the body. So it is fit to give service to the body. If it is fit to give service to the body, it is healthy. But if the finger, it cannot give service, then it is diseased. So similarly, all living entities who are not rendering any service to the Lord, they are simply working for sense gratification. And that is diseased condition. And in the diseased condition, nobody can be happy. That is not possible. If you have got some disease, you cannot be happy, correct? So the other party, that is Duryodhana's party, they have become blind. Why? Because Lovo Upahata Chetasaha. They have lost their sense. Kulakshaya Kritam Dosham. There is a great fault by destroying the dynasty. See, nowadays, people are destroying from the womb. Abortion, contraception, destroying. They do not know Kulakshaya. See, in Bhagavatam 11.5.41, he speaks about the indebtedness, no? Devarshi, Bhuta, Nam, Pitranam and all. See, from my grandfather, my father got this body. From my father, I have got this body. So I am also indebted. Because this body, this human body is a chance for understanding my position. I can get out of the clutches of this Maya of transmigrating from one body to another. So this opportunity I have got by the grace of my forefathers. So these are all feelings of obligation, correct? And there is duty. Therefore, Arjuna is considering so many things because he is a devotee. Kulakshaya kritam dosham mitra drohecha patakam. In the 37th verse he says. So he says, the other party, they have become lost of their intelligence on account of greediness for acquiring the empire. So Arjuna is telling in the 30th verse, Khatam na geyam asmabihi. See, he's not saying I or by me. He's including Krishna. We, he's telling we. You are in this side. So because you are on my side, he's telling to Krishna, you are my charioteer. And if I do not consider all these things, what will the people say? So they will say that Arjuna is such a great devotee of Krishna. Krishna is also there. And he is committing such sinful activities. Right? Therefore, he says, Katam na geyam asmabihi. So he is dragging Krishna also. A saintly person, a devotee, should consider all these things before acting. Whether I am doing it properly or improperly. This is what Arjuna is doing here. So whereas the other party is Lobo Upahata Chetasaha. Upahata Chetasaha means they have lost their sense. Okay, Arjuna says we cannot. A devotee must be very responsible. He must act in such a way that nobody can blame him. Otherwise, everyone say, what kind of devotee he is? So this is the duty. They should be very cautious. See, a sannyasi, they should be very, very cautious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, an ordinary grahastha, if he talks with a woman, nobody will blame. Because he's a grahastha. But if a sannyasi talks with a woman very intimately, immediately people will take note of it. So he should be very cautious. So a devotee, a sannyasi, they have got very, very great responsibility. People will very easily criticize them. So Arjuna is considering all these points. Katam nageyam asmabhi papadasmat nivartitum. See, they may indulge in these sinful activities. Arjuna is telling, they will indulge, but how can we indulge? What people will say? Kulakshay kritam dosham prapasyad bihir. Janārdana, hey Janārdana, you are maintainer of the people. So if the people become sinful, so it is very difficult to maintain them. So these things are considered. Kulakshaya. So we cannot destroy the family. But on one condition, we can become free from all this obligation. What is that? One who has dedicated his life simply to serve Krishna. Mukunda. So if one has taken, fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord, then he has no more obligation. Like Pitra, Devarshi, Deva, Devata, Rishi. So he is immune because he is transcendental. But so long as one is not a devotee, one who is not fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, he must follow all these regulatory principles and duties. He cannot be released. Everything account is kept up. Everything is noted down. According to his karma, he's going to get another body. So these are all subtle laws. Therefore, kulakshaya dosham, you cannot destroy your family. Materially, you cannot destroy your family. So Arjuna is speaking. So he's saying they have lost their intelligence. But when we see, how can we destroy the family? So at the present moment, no, there is no such family life. No consideration of religion, no consideration of irreligious life. Everything is like animals. If not animals, all are Shudras. Nobody is a Brahmana, nobody is a Kshatriya, nobody is a Vaishya. So a very chaotic condition, no, of the human society. Therefore, it cannot be revived to the original position of systematic position. It is not possible. Everything is lost. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his grace, one thing he told, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva gatir anyatha. Everything is lost. So now, simply by chanting Hare Rama, the holy name of Lord Krishna, you become again situated in the original position. Everything is adjusted because it is transcendental. So there is no other way. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the greatest facility according to Shastras, and that is a boon of this age. Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. The 12th canto he says, 12.351. So simply by chanting the holy name of Hare Krishna, everyone becomes free from all contamination of this age. Mukta Sangam Param Vrajet. And he becomes so purified that he becomes fit to go back home, back to God. So this is the opportunity, chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we should not miss. This is the only savior for human society of this age. See, the only way to understand Krishna is through devotion. There is no other way. Arjuna says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. That's why in Bhagavatam 2.635, Lord Brahma very humbly says that although he has done so much austerities and perfect in Vedic wisdom and an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, still he cannot understand the Lord, the very source of his birth. If Krishna cannot be understood without devotion, how can Bhagavad Gita be understood without being a devotee of Krishna? That's why in Bhagavad Gita, verse 10.14, Krishna says to Arjuna, Sarvam etadritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava nahi te bhagavan vyaktim vidur deva na deva dhanavaha. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth. See, Arjuna is telling to Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, oh Lord, can understand your personality. So Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam etadritam manye, which means I accept everything that you say as truth. So this is the mood of surrender we need to have before approaching Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord, he reveals the most confidential knowledge of Gita to such a submissive soul. See, otherwise, Bhagavad Gita remains a mystical book, right? Which can be read by greatest of the scholars. And still the right meaning and conclusion cannot be derived. So we are all so lucky to have come across Srila Prabhupada, who not only compiled this Bhagavad Gita as it is, but also gave us the key to understand this Bhagavad Gita. In the wonderful purport of the first verse of Bhagavad Gita, verse 1.1, Prabhupada says, one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Shri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. So he's giving the clue, the secret how to read Bhagavad Gita. And finally, the practical lessons we should take from Bhagavad Gita is, if we take one verse for a day to recite and memorize, then the whole day is spent in Krishna consciousness, effortlessly. When we make it a daily practice to meditate at least on one verse every day, We become naturally engaged in Krishna's service all the time. So the only thing required for all of us is to have a desire to learn, to memorize, to hear, to contemplate, and genuinely attempt to put the instructions into practice. See, the desire to change needs to be more than a desire to stay the same. We should, after reading and understanding, our behavior should not be the same as before. It should change for the better. And it's always said we should give this to our younger generation, right? Bhagavad Gita. So in the process of teaching these verses to the children, we should also learn it. We should not tell them, you memorize, you learn, you do, you practice. Unless we practice, it will not go to them also, right? So it's very, very important. So this Bhagavad Gita is very, very important for us to understand. For each verse gives a lesson for us. So today's lesson also, Arjuna, as a great devotee of the Lord, is telling that we should, because the other people are sinless, they are aggressive, they want to kill and everything, we should also not do the same thing. We should understand the pros and cons and then go ahead with it. So it's very nicely is giving us all these arguments. So these are the points which we should take and put it into practice. Unless we put it into practice with the Bhagavad Gita, what we learn is of no use. So stop here. Thank you very much, Guru Mataji. Vancha kalpatarubhisha kripa sandhu bhayo patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo. Hare Krishna.